then profit.
Alright, I'm spinning the wheel.
Skifty's so fucking. Yo, Skifty finally
And
understands
we're
why
gonna be
Jake is
unlocked.
over us. Like,
Yeah.
Spin it or we'll
Finally
be
get it.
unlocked forever.
Tim!
Yay!
oh, get it, the news hound, because he's a dog. Get it.
Well, I mean, an AI generated it, so, you know.
Get it.
Alright,
Tinka, Taylor.
I'm an AI generated American.
go
Hey,
for
before
it.
Oh,
that's you should say that.
do you have
Heard
8
of
fingers?
Speaking of AI, has
hold on.
anybody heard of the AI generated Seinfeld Twitch stream channel at all, or is that
Yes,
just me?
Oh,
You've seen the
It's
clip where
fucking
they're like
what?
talking about death, and it's like
Yes.
what?
existentialism.
Is
Sorry,
it just
not
like
that-
mashed up?
crazy.
Is it mashed up clips? What is
Cullen,
this?
Cullen,
No, it's
I really want you to make this a topic because I feel like that's a perfect Swag Academy entry. Is the
Kind of.
the
Oh my
AI
God,
generated
what happened,
Seinfeld
presentation?
project?
Well, do you remember on my like bulleted list? I have like a list of like topics I want to talk about. Like, hear me rant about live streaming, because this is just another entry in like amazing little things that Twitch generates at times. But I don't want to take away from the primary discussion. So
Right.
I'd like to hear what Tim has to say.
Go, Tim.
So,
Tim time.
for those who do not know, I am an engineering student, and that means I'm a big fucking nerd.
Welcome to the
But
Yep.
Nice.
Wow.
All right.
None
What
of
a
us guessed. None
what
of
a
us could have
fucking
guessed.
start.
Yeah.
but
This
it's
is
less about
promising.
like oh yeah, games are cool. It's like, wow, this piece of paper has more lines than normal on it. Wonder why that's there.
I'm literally a graphic
But
designer and illustrator.
anyway.
I look at lines and love lines all day. That's you can't escape me.
But yes. So this I'll admit I don't really know how to pick topics very well. But at the time I was reading about like just weird things that happened in the Cold War, and planes came to mind because what do you get when you mix extreme tensions, like many engineers who are very well educated now because computers are just coming out, the ability to, instead of just a bunch of people writing on paper and guessing, you can actually make things that look like they shouldn't work, like this monstrosity of an airplane.
I love
Like-
the two wings at the front. They really feel like they're
Yeah.
doing something.
It looks like the clown car of planes.
if that plane were a person, it looks like it would have buck teeth.
Aw. That's kind of cute.
That's fucked.
So things like this happen when you can combine massive tensions, the ability for engineers and designers to have access to computing power and research, like, here's how I make this work instead of just crash, and a colossal cocaine addiction. So you can do these things, step back and say, yes, that looks normal. And our first example is something called the Thunder Screech. So this actually came from an original plane that did make it to production, the one you see here. It's basic, it's boring, it's normal, nothing special really about it. And
Looks like a plane.
you know, here's how to make your plane
Here's how to
interesting.
spice it up.
Ooh.
Here's how to spice it up. Step 1. Take your $7.7 million plane, remove its engine. Step
That's
2.
not good.
Perfect.
All right.
In
all
its
right,
place, put in a 6,000 horsepower turboprop engine.
yeah. That's
Next,
a lot.
add an afterburner, which gives you another 1,000 horsepower. Next, add a massive propeller to the front, one of the biggest ever fitted to any airplane. Step 5, I don't know, do another
Wait a
line.
second. If you have a big propeller on the front, aren't you adding more like surface or like wind force or air tension, whatever that word is?
Your attention.
There's like one
Tension.
specifically because there's like it's not like friction. It's like when the air particles hit it,
Like
it's
drag?
slightly different.
Air is-
Yeah, air resistance. That's the one. Aren't you just adding more air resistance to the front of your plane?
when you've done enough cocaine, things like friction become negligible.
Oh, okay.
Air resistance ceases to matter.
Oh,
So,
God, okay.
yeah, so then after you've done all these things and realize this is still an acceptable aircraft, you profit off it, ideally. But here's what it looked like after it was finished. If you notice, this picture is black and white and the other one was color.
Hmm. So
That
it
should say
didn't-
something.
I'm guessing it didn't make it. My
No.
boy, my son, my child. Look at him. He's so young and innocent. Before the
So
accident.
the first problem they found out was the engine had so much power if you tried to go to full power, it would flip the aircraft over.
That'll do it.
Holy
That seems safe.
It would just the tail would just fly out in front.
So
because
it never like. Oh no, go ahead.
No, I meant like sideways. It would just turn upside down.
Oh, okay.
It'd just go belly up.
Yeah, it would just slip upside down. And it was so bad to use. The test pilot that they flew with it literally threatened to beat up the engineers that designed it. Threats of actual violence were expressed over this aircraft.
You tried to kill me, you son of a bitch.
Pretty much, yes. That's almost exactly what he said. So, why was this plane so terrible? Well, first off, it was loud as fuck.
Was it supposed to be a stealth plane?
No, but most aircraft are, tolerable for noise if you have earplugs in. This one was so loud, even if you had earplugs, you could hear from 25 miles away.
Impressive.
Which is far.
Oh, no way.
The propeller itself spun so fast, the entire end of it was supersonic. But that meant that it was also continuously making a sonic boom. And the sonic boom itself was so powerful, there was a technician fueling it. He got knocked over and blown 5 feet from where he was standing.
Jesus.
Dude, this is like that one fucking plane that I'm designing at 3 a.m. I'm like fucking Kerbal Space Program, dude. Like that's
like a Kerbal Space Program plane.
Oh no!
The most powerful engines, the most powerful propeller. Launch it.
No!
Send that man to the moon in 10 seconds and make sure he never comes back.
Oh my god!
The plane to access
Did his
shadow
ear
realm.
cavities like explode?
They must have.
There was
A continuous sonic boom as well. Like, I'm just thinking,
because it just kept going, it literally just didn't stop.
well, usually when I think of a sonic boom, I think of that like scene of like Boba Fett or Jango Fett's like Slave One thing where he sets off the depth drive and goes BOW, and I'm like, it's like a big burst. But then if that's just perpetual big burst, that seems awful on so many levels.
Yeah.
It's worse.
But the actual force of the sonic booms in the control tower was so bad, it also shook like computers off the stand and radar out of its tower. So they couldn't control the aircraft either.
Oh,
So the front propeller on the plane spun faster than the speed of sound.
Yes, this innocent-looking triangle actually caused untold havoc and destruction.
But also, that's not like that's like the whole front of like its nose is the propeller as well. That's like locked in. It's not like a separate bit like on like a Spitfire or something. That's like the whole front of this spinny boy. Yeah. But so
then probably the worst problem though was that it could give you a seizure.
What?
There was so much energy in the noise. It gave a technician a seizure while he was working on the plane.
I think that's probably the least surprising bit about it, honestly.
To be fair, with everything else, I'm like, that feels in line with current projections of where I feel
that tracks. Yeah.
Yeah, we're still in batshit insane territory, I feel like,
But like, this thing never saw practical use, right?
Well, no, because it flew 10 times. Of those 10 times, 9 were an emergency landing, which means either the engine exploded or like something else broke on it.
Hey,
so basically, it never got anywhere.
There was one time.
There was one time it actually got up and did a quick flight.
1 out of 10.
After that,
1 out of 10 dentists recommend this aircraft.
But yeah, so then. After the last flight where they had like their 8th engine failure in a row and a fire and explosion, the test pilot literally got out of the aircraft, climbed directly out, and said, "There aren't enough of you, and you aren't strong enough to get me back into this fucking thing." That is a direct quote from the pilot. That is not like me making something. That is a direct quote.
That's fucked.
He looked them in the eyes and said, "Quote me on that for future people to know."
Yeah. But because the aircraft was so loud it could, kill the pilot without any incident. It was never adapted, and that's why it has the X in front of X for experimental. Because they realized this is a terrible idea.
They realized.
Moving on from this one, we'll come to our second example.
I see why it was called the Thunder Screech, though.
Yeah. Then, yeah.
Long and short, boys.
Oh my
Hey,
Exactly.
I
So
love
this
my
is a
short
two-plane
son.
combo.
My
So this first plane was admittedly it was thought of during World War II. The big boy seat down at the bottom. The thought was if the United Kingdom fell during World War II, the US would have to bomb Europe from the US. But nobody had enough. They didn't have enough range to do that.
So wait. So it's literally a Kerbal Space Program plane. That's all.
No,
fuel
it is.
in the
It actually
tube.
is. Yeah.
Yes,
That's amazing.
It's a long.
because. So just a sense of the scale, the propellers on that are 19 feet in diameter.
Holy shit!
Each one of them
man.
is 19 feet.
Oh my god.
So like
Oh,
a single blade is what, about as tall as like the tallest NBA player you can think of.
Yeah, one of those blades. No, taller. One of those blades is about 9 feet each.
Jesus.
That's taller than
Uh,
Yao
Mary,
Ming.
Mary motherfucker Christ.
Yeah, that is.
I don't think one of those propellers could stand upright in my house. One of those blades, I mean.
Yeah, they're
Yo.
big. The wing where the wing connects to the big long fuel tube is 7 feet thick, so you can actually walk inside the wing
Damn.
if you're a crew member.
That boy is legitimately thick.
Damn,
Yeah.
he thick, boy.
He's too thick. He's too thick for this world.
So, and then because it's designed to bomb Europe and return to the US without like landing, it has enough fuel to stay in the air for 40 hours straight, continuously,
At what speed?
That's pretty impressive.
Jesus.
at like 300 miles an hour, 400 miles an hour.
God.
Jesus.
So it can fly to Europe, bomb Berlin for 5 minutes, and then spend 30 hours flying back.
I'm reminded of Vernier's, like, we drove 72 hours to eat at Taco Bell.
Yeah, you know, yeah.
We drove around the whole globe just to waste fuel.
Right? Yeah, dude. We flew all the way to Australia to eat kangaroo meat. You won't believe what happens 8 minutes into the video.
That does sound like a Mr. Beast video.
It actually does. Oh, careful. Listen, be careful of what you say, boy. Like, you don't know who's around the corner, you know?
He's looking
Yeah,
at you.
they're
He's
gonna
got
be
those
stealing our
hands out.
ideas.
You hear a knock at the door, and it's like, I paid. You just slowly open it, and you just say, I paid $1 million to get this neighborhood empty so I could kill a man.
I legally was allowed to kill this guy. Let me show you how I did it.
I want to know about the small plane though, because I think the small boy.
The goblin.
The small boy seems like my perfect.
Yeah.
My perfect
So the small
favorite child.
plane is interesting in its own right because this
called
big
the
plane actually
Goblin.
became this big plane. So this
Spider-Man.
big plane was it's interesting because it was so big it could not well defend itself because it's such a easy target, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
So they thought we need fighters to stay with it to protect it, right? But none of them can fly anywhere near far enough. So what if we put
And that's
fighters
where the little
inside the
guy
plane?
Oh my
Bro,
God.
that's fucking Star Wars.
Oh my
Boys,
god!
That's literally Star Wars.
Mhm.
It is its son. It is
What a
the
fanboy
plane
moment.
son.
I love
Don't
the
talk
term-
to me or my son ever again.
I love
So,
the term parasite fighter. That's such a great term.
Oh my god! Damn.
But yeah, then if you zoom in on the picture of the plane, you can see a guy sitting in the cockpit as well, so you can know just how small it is.
Yeah, that
But-
reminds me of. I don't know if you've ever been to the Air and Space Museum, but they have something called it was a German plane called the Comet with a K.
Oh yes, I was gonna talk about that later actually
Oh,
because
okay,
there's
never
some
mind.
interesting facts about
yeah.
that.
Spoiler.
That's a win.
But continuing on, so we're looking at Big Boy here 1st.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Oh,
there you go. On the right, you can see a person standing next to the main wheel. That guy is probably about 6 feet tall,
Mhm.
and if you
Like a
notice,
dump
he
truck
is
wheel.
he is about 2/3 of the way up.
Wait, does its wheels have wheels?
No, those are chalks to stop it from.
Yeah,
The wheels,
like-
yeah. The wheels deploy more wheels.
Yeah.
As you might imagine, big plane means big heavy,
Mm-hmm.
and to make big heavy go sky and not fall, you need
Go
10
up.
engines.
I don't know if I can keep up with this engineering lingo you're using.
No. It's a big More engine, big fast go. Big
Yeah.
plane.
So is
Yeah,
it
you're
true
smart,
that
thanks.
we don't? This is kind of off topic, but is it true that we don't really understand how planes fly to begin with?
No, we understand.
Like we understand
we
do, yeah.
No.
we get it.
Like,
Helicopters are weird.
We,
Helicopters.
Either-
helicopters. That's what.
not like the idea is the same. It's more just a weird application of it.
It's weird how it works.
Because so a plane idea is that you go fast, air does magic shit and makes it go up.
Air.
Well, yeah, anything
But
can
with
fly if it's
helicopter-
moving fast enough. Like
There's-
that's,
But with
that's the.
but with
Helicopter-
helicopters,
Fuck.
the idea is that instead of making the plane go fast,
Just make the wings.
what do you make
go
the
fast.
wings go fast?
The spinning
Yeah.
isn't actually
So
to go fast; it's to shake them up and down so that they
It's
flap
like
a lot.
it's like
Yeah.
the
It's
aerospace equivalent of blowing your own sail, which also works.
It does,
Yeah.
it does work. The Mythbusters tested it.
Yep.
Brilliant.
It's
But yeah, so because this large aircraft was so heavy, it needed a lot of power to get going. So it had 10 engines on it. It had 4 jet engines and 6 propellers.
Really? Hey, yo.
And then for the jets, they were pretty basic. So they only had 5,000 pounds of thrust each. But the real star was the propellers, with those huge propeller blades on the end of them. So each of those had one engine, which was 28 cylinders, and it displaced 71.5 liters. And now, to put it in perspective, most people's cars would probably be around 2 or 3. So the engines were big.
How much would it take to send this thing to your?
Yeah, how much fuel did this thing consume on a round trip?
Yeah,
I'm sure it was a lot.
I am also sure it's a lot.
just a bit.
I don't have to be an engineer to be like, I think that thing uses a lot of fuel.
You know, I bet that thing's real fuel efficient.
Yeah, man. True.
Yeah, with its
This is-
10 engines.
Yes, this is actually a very green airplane. You know, because it has so much fuel. It's
Burns
making
clean
oil
coal.
less viable
Artificial.
because
It's
it's so
tanking the
expensive.
oil
It just
and
needs
gas
oil.
industry sickly.
It's actually burning it so fast that it can't create enough CO2s to keep up.
Exactly. It's burning the gas so fast you don't have enough. So that makes the gas more expensive than everybody else. It means electric's more popular, right? There you go.
Man.
So the solution to solve global warming is burn more oil.
Perfect.
I agree.
Yeah, fly bigger plane.
BP
Can I
oil
get
be
that on a
like.
shirt, fly bigger planes.
Yeah, BP doesn't stand for British Petroleum, it stands for bigger plane.
Yeah, it's actually true. This is true. I can tell this is true because I work for BP. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
You work for Big Plane.
Yeah, I work for Big Plane Corporation. That's right.
Big plane.
Right. I was you don't know this. Like I don't say this often, but I was actually there when the big boy flew. You know, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, man.
Big
Yeah,
plane
man.
lobbies so much in America, they really
Yeah.
ruined
They
the
use-
house.
Oh no, sorry.
Small
Did I say
plane
did I say I flew it? No, my dad flew it. Yeah, my dad flew it. Yeah.
They really ruined the small plane economy. Big plane.
I can confirm the fuel capacity of the plane is 31,000 gallons.
That's so fucking horrendous.
Mary Mother of Christ.
And then
Dude.
because the piston engines also burned oil quite
Atrocious.
thirstily, each of the piston engines had a 100 gallon oil tank as well,
Oh
That's
my
just the
god.
lube.
which had to be refilled every time on landing because the engine burned it all.
Yeah.
How many Iraq invasions is that?
It's gotta be like at least 200 or 300 of one, you know?
I was gonna say at least 3, but I think his number's more accurate.
That's a few crusades, yeah.
How many football fields?
Yeah. Can you tell me in how many yards?
As it
Explain
turned
in
out,
basketball terms.
Those are rookie numbers.
having this many engines was a good thing. Because, as you can see, the official slogan was 6 turning, 4 burning. However, the engines tended to fail regularly. So the generally
wonder
accepted
why.
slogan among the aircrew that flew it was 2 turning, 2 burning, 2 smoking, 2 choking, and 2 missing.
Okay, good. All right, good.
Because the original jet engines were not very reliable, so they had a propensity to explode while they're flying. So they
Oh.
would be
Wait, so did
burning
this
and
thing
flaming and
see-
blowing up.
Did this thing see
Shitting
active
and
combat?
coming and
This thing did see combat. If you,
So you're.
Wait, no. This
Go
thing
ahead.
was.
Sorry.
They really used this.
This thing was real.
this thing was used. They made more than 100 of these and flew them regularly.
Oh my god!
Wow. Okay.
What?
Do you care to elaborate on that in any sort of shape
What
or
did they-
form?
What did they need?
You know what? I'm
60
I like that
hours of
isn't.
flight time for.
So there was a little
Fucking
thing called
building
nuclear
with
weapons
hmm
because this was before nuclear missiles
yeah.
became a thing.
Oh,
So this
intercontinental.
this aircraft was basically only used to carry the hydrogen bomb because that in its own right was also a big motherfucker.
Hmm.
It was something like 30 feet long and weighed 8,000 pounds or something
Yeah.
stupid like that.
We hadn't figured out intercontinental ballistic missiles yet.
Yeah, so they would put it in this thing, fuel it up, and just let it fly for basically 2 days.
That is
And then when
nuts.
it's out of fuel, it comes back, lands, and they send another one up.
Ooh.
Just to
But-
keep the
Just for one boy.
Yep.
Just for one Nagasaki. How dare. Jeez.
And then,
Okay.
so the next thing I'm sure you can imagine, nuclear weapons combined with a gigantic plane that's not very reliable always ends well, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
It sure does.
And sure enough, within 2 years of this plane, existing and flying,
Wait.
it was
is this-
responsible
is
for
this
losing-
The thing? Is this the plane that lost a nuke on the eastern coast of the United States?
it did it multiple times.
Multiple times!
Why multiple
There-
times? Wait.
Oh yeah, the
a
United
minute.
States has lost
I was
like
like-
a bunch of nukes.
Yeah, I knew it happened. I didn't think one plane would be responsible for. Like, the first time it happened, you'd be like, okay, we need to think about this plane carrying nukes. But then it keeps happening, though, like,
No, it gets worse because they actually lost a few in Spain as well.
in Spain.
Yeah. So every now and then,
During-
this
During-
plane,
During like the fascist revolution there, right?
Oh, yeah, the Spanish Civil War. Correct.
As we
I get-
fucking speak, there is an unexploded nuke somewhere buried in South Carolina that just it fell so hard that it didn't detonate, but it almost did.
I thought there was one off the coast of Georgia, like just
there,
in the
there are
ocean.
multiple.
I
Yeah,
feel
there are
like
numerous.
I'm going to say
There are
every state
multiple.
probably has a secret nuke somewhere in it.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's not a secret. This thing just fucking dropped it out of the sky, and the only
But-
reason the nuke didn't go off is because of a mechanical failure.
Well, I was going to say, I'm not saying that secret is in we don't know that it's landed, but secret is in it. Most people won't know where it is and may stumble upon it one day.
That's the nicest
Uh,
thing about South Carolina is that it was almost nuked one time.
I'm learning
Yeah.
something new today.
Yeah.
So the story for that one goes: the aircraft was flying along as normal when the pilot noticed a funny reading on one of the engines, and then another one, and then another one. And then he looked out the window and saw that one of the engines blew up, as just happened apparently. And these planes also had a crew of like 8 as standard.
Mhm.
So the pilot was like, "Huh, this is a bit fucked. We have no engines on one side of us, and yeah." So to try and save themselves, they put the plane on like a nice stable descent and then bailed out.
Mhm.
So it didn't die in a fiery wreck. But the problem was because the plane is so big, it got unstable and crashed in a big fiery ball. And in that, they lost. So they only lost one at a time, but in total, they ended up losing something like 5 or 6 hydrogen bombs just because of this plane.
Oh my god.
Fuck.
Hmm. You know what? I feel like after 1, I might be like, could be a fluke. After 2, I'd be like, okay, maybe we should not put the big nukes in the plane that keeps having engines that explode regularly whenever it flies.
Yeah. But even that's only the jet engines that cause those problems. Time to talk about the other engines on it, the big propellers.
Oh, the big boys.
So because they're at the back of the wing instead of the front, the engines had a tendency to freeze because the air inlet was in the front instead of the back like normal.
Oh.
It meant that they would ice up and the engine would choke out and die.
Why did they do that? Put it on the back.
I don't know. Actually, it's not a
Does
very
it
good idea,
look
is it?
cool? All right, it looked cool, man. Leave it alone, man.
That's actually a really
They
good
were like,
question.
Jerry was like, hey, should we put these in the front? And someone else was like, yo. But have you thought about how like sick the aesthetic of this?
Yeah,
plane
I mean, dude,
actually
look at
looks,
it.
though?
It you know,
But it
Actually, I
looks
can-
cool.
Let's put a racing
it's gonna
stripe on the
get
side of
so
it.
many
Actually, give me
bitches.
one
Like,
second.
As they just snort cocaine off their
exactly.
Tim, that's
Like,
like
if
that's
you
like
look at
the
it from
one.
the front, like it does kind of look like that's the intake to the engine there. Oh,
Oh wow, that is perfectly 2005.
oh yeah. So that little bit there was the intake to every engine, and every time they would come out with at least two of them frozen shut.
That's not good. But that's the.
Tim,
Go ahead.
it's like the one diagram from World War II where like the engineers would look at a plane, like the planes that came back and where all the
Yeah.
bullet holes were. They're like, how can we make these planes last longer? And then someone just pointed out to him like, hey, you guys realize that you're looking at the planes that came back, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, pretty much exactly. But see, the problem was they said no. What do you mean it didn't come back? Of course it had to come back. It's bulletproof.
Hmm.
That's why
It
we
was-
gotta
it was
put
in
the
fact
armor
not
where the bullets
bulletproof.
are.
Yeah.
So yeah, now we'll be moving on after one more quick stat line. In 1948, when the plane launched, its maximum lifting capacity, like it could take off at a maximum weight of 500,000 pounds,
Ooh,
which is only very
Million.
that would make me very
Yeah.
rich in England.
so 500,000 pounds.
Good joke.
Dude, that's
That
like the
is-
weight of like 2 Americans. I'm sorry. That's not nice. I'm sorry.
How many
I
football
don't mean it
fields
like
is
that,
that?
bro.
2.5.
You know, the thing is, I can't really like smoke Americans like that because I know they got a bunch of guns. So I'm really just afraid of
Yeah,
like roasting
yeah.
them. You know, so like I play
It's my
One day
goddamn
they
right to be obese.
One day they might turn up to school and tell you not to come in. And it's like,
bro. Exactly, like man, I'm saying,
Yeah.
Get your dunks
How
in while
dare
you
Michelle
can,
Obama
Vernier.
try to end childhood obesity?
Yeah.
My country also
So-
makes me sad.
sorry, my bad,
So-
my bad. Keep going, Tim. Sorry.
Yeah, that means this plane could lift 250 tons normally. And then towards the end of its lifespan, which probably was only like 10 years because it was a bad plane,
Mhm.
they had a few other ideas they didn't have time to find pictures for because it's not a very well photographed plane, oddly enough.
So
But
it's
one of the
like
ideas was
this
instead of this gigantic nine foot tall tire, what if we do tracks like a tank instead?
game.
And then they did.
I
No fucking way. What?
But why?
Wait,
So
what?
it
Because
can fool
cocaine.
around on the
lead,
ground.
yeah, the lead engineer presents this idea and then just goes.
It's like, it's cool. Guys, backward propellers, great pick. What about tank tracks? Everybody thinks those are sick as fuck.
Oh, that feels like something
Like-
you would see in, like G.I. Joe, bro. Like,
Well, so do you have a picture of this?
I can probably find one really quick.
Ugh.
Like,
Taxpayer dollars, baby.
Let's see. Ooh.
Oh,
There you go, yeah.
Oh my
Fucking
God! I love it so much.
and if you read the tagline, it makes the B-36 light on its feet.
That's gorgeous.
Oh, I'm crying.
But
Look at
here's the
this.
thing: I can kind of see where they're going with this, though, because an inflated wheel requires air pressure to keep it up. If you're putting 500,000 pounds of pressure on those tires, then
yeah.
an airless tire tread makes a
But-
little bit of sense.
But then if it has these look like tire treads that will have to run off each other, and could it very easily have something get stuck in them and lock?
You're-
And
Yeah,
when
how
lands?
does it? How does it land?
When did it land?
You mean like
You know,
this?
like
Dude,
27
like-
points
Yeah,
of
like
failure.
that.
That's
Yeah,
official.
the 27 points
notice-
of failure make the
If
landing.
you notice the massively long ditches in the ground behind it.
It's just
Yeah.
scooping dirt out.
Yeah, it's less like a landing and more just like a sled.
Killing the fucking Earth's crust. It's,
See, the thing with this design is that it is both designed for the plane and for, the farmers. It actually
Yeah.
just makes a bunch of tracks where like people can, like plant their crops and everything. It's
tilling
great.
the earth, it's giving a little bit back. It takes it takes all the oil up and then it puts everything back down inside it when it crashes.
I just can't believe
any
that-
burrowing animals get crushed by a building with wings.
I just can't believe that this thing is literally literally a Kerbal Space Program plane. It's just a tube of fuel with wings on it.
Yeah.
What if
They added
plain
tank tracks
but
because it was
big?
cool.
What if plain but big?
What if
And
they
now-
were big?
And now going from this to the literal polar opposite, this motherfucker.
A tiny.
What if plain but small?
What if it was small?
So
I do-
that last picture was a guy next to the tire.
Yeah.
This thing is a guy next to the whole plane.
Yeah.
So
What
You could like throw a rock at it and it would blow up.
How much fuel did this guy have? Oh,
So
19.
I actually could not find a given figure because it was never published.
Okay.
But if you notice, it could only fly for 80 minutes before it fell to the sky.
Must
it had no
eject
fuel.
when out of fuel.
Oh yeah, that's
Well,
the thing. The Comet had that too. The plane is designed to be so compact there is nowhere to store tires inside of it because everything below the pilot was fuel. So the only place for the wheels was on the outside as a detachable track that the plane lifts off from.
This
They
could
had,
be
like,
an
a
ideal
little
kamikaze plane.
Load.
If I may direct you to bullet point 2,
Yeah,
No landing gear.
No landing gear.
Good.
God.
and yeah, so you would have to sit in this thing. So for the reason that I had a landing gear is because it was attached directly to that big plane we just saw.
Yeah.
But the problem, because there's no way to get to it from the main plane, you had to sit in this little tiny thing for 40 hours
Ugh.
while you were waiting to be used if you needed.
What a planelet.
But I'm not sure what's worse: sitting in there for 40 hours doing nothing, or being forced to eject over like the Atlantic Ocean if you fought someone in the ocean.
It's
Like-
literally the exact phrase. I can't remember how it goes, but it's like 90% sitting, waiting, and doing nothing, and then 10% absolute chaos.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
Like this looks like something, given enough time and resources, Tim could build. Not to say that like knock Tim's intelligence because he's a genius, but I mean like this is something he could do as like a backyard project.
You know what? I understand. This is the indie games of planes.
like literally like how your dad would go out there and build like a tree house, like a nice tree house. Like this is like given like an afternoon, Tim could like throw this thing together.
Yeah, instead of a project car, you just decide to do a project plane for once, and you're like, I can work. I can make this.
I'd certainly call it the plane of all time.
It is absolutely a plane.
And I love the comment, like popular design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that being
It's the
facetious, or
most
is that
plain
actually-
ever.
Was it
Oh, it's
actually
the most plain for your buck for sure.
That is the most plane for your buck.
I'll tell you what.
I don't know. Just despite its size, it was not very cheap. It was quite
It's a
expensive.
Yeah, because
It's a
they're
paper
single
plane that
use.
wanted to
They're
become
like
a real
one-use,
plane.
like disposable
Oh,
camera,
no.
except it's an aircraft.
Hmm.
I mean, like I'm pretty sure, like in modern terms, each of those things would cost like $20 million.
Oh, fuck.
Which, like-
that is okay. Well, you
Which,
know,
like, yeah, that's like
well,
if you
tell you
compare
what,
You know what?
tell
if
you
you
what, it
compare
is
that to like
plain for your buck.
You know what? It's the least amount of plane for your buck. I
How
feel like
many
I'm getting
Mr.
ripped
Beast
off.
eye surgeries is that?
Well,
That's the
at least
Mr. Beast
like
of planes. That's the Mr. Beast of
defense.
planes.
That joke.
Well, yeah, so if you can
we can make
remember
this better.
from the last plane, so this plane is 14 feet long. That means this plane is shorter than the propellers on the other plane.
Oh god.
Oh yeah.
How many
Why
of
didn't they
these
just-
planes could you fit on the other one? Have you done the math?
The official tally they wanted to fit at a time was 6.
No.
That doesn't seem like a lot of plane for my.
That's
big
not a
plane.
lot, but then again, like it is just 6 planes inside a plane.
How do they launch? Because they don't have wheels. Were they on like a track, but then they just kind of went out the back? Like,
They,
throw 'em.
themselves?
they were held by something called a trapeze,
Ooh.
which held the plane
Alright,
like
that's
up
a French
some
word.
like half inside, kind of. If you know what I
Don't
mean.
tell me it like slingshots them out of there.
No, it was not that advanced. It literally just let go
Yeah,
and they fell.
If you ever watched the first Captain America movie, the little bomb planes inside the giant Nazi bomber that just dropped out of the bottom, like these would be deployed in the same way a bomb would have come out of that plane, and they would just start their engine as they were in free fall and pray that it developed enough speed to actually get them moving instead of crashing.
When my plane son grows up, he's gonna be a trapeze artist. I love my plane son. He's gonna be an
Hot
acrobat.
take. That was the only good Captain America movie. Was the one where he beat up Nazis.
All right, we'll save that for another week.
Okay.
That's every movie.
Yeah, that was the
We're
best
saving
one.
it.
That's a good one.
That's
Continue.
But one minor design oversight. This plane had a maximum ceiling, which is the highest it can physically work, of like 25, 30, 40,000 feet. The other plane went up to 55,000 feet. It typically stayed there. So when you launched this plane, it had to fall 15,000 feet before it could do anything.
Oh no, that's not good.
I love it.
Do you realize how fucking far 15,000 feet is, dude?
what? That's all.
Dude,
We're
that's
getting high in the
terrifying.
atmosphere. We're getting
That
high
is-
up there,
That's terrifying. You have to fall 15,000 feet.
and that's just to fly. Like, you're gonna have to be at least like maybe 5,000, 10,000 feet above the ground.
wait,
to
hold
feel
on, wait.
safe.
I
That's
mean,
just a stop
I'm not
flying.
sure. I'm not sure Tim has this on hand, but like, can you just imagine the amount of G-force like you would feel like just trying to steer the plane back to like
Well, consider the way that it would fall. It wouldn't fall belly first. The nose would tip toward the
Yeah, well, yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
it
I'm,
would
that's what I'm
roll
saying.
nose
That's what I'm
down.
saying. Yeah. And then you have to actually like bring it. Oh no way, bro! I would nah. Dude.
That's
That's some nightmare fuel.
That's
I'm sorry.
100% that scene from Dr. Feelgood or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Left the Bomb, where he just gets on the bomb and is riding it down. That's 100% what this is. you just go like, I'm going down and I'm going to be fine. It's going to be fine because science.
Did this thing even fly, or did it just glide?
Glide.
So it did fly because it did have an engine in it. That little hole in the front is the intake for a jet engine.
Oh, is that why it has to fall so it goes nose first and then that like whirs it up so it can start going faster and the engine.
It did have a normal starting motor on it,
Okay.
but the problem was the wings were too small to make enough lift. Stop plane fall.
Okay.
So,
Stop
so plane fall until it don't fall, and then it fly and don't fall until it out of fuel, and then does fall. And the pilot has to eject and not fall until he does, and fall again and not die.
The
Wait,
plane
also,
builds
isn't
up
the-
its speed as it's fall? It's a feature, not a bug. Falling 15,000 feet is what gives the engine enough speed.
of course.
Part of the experience.
Yes, pushes up glasses, of course. You activated my trap card, actually. Wait,
Yeah.
if
So
it's so
this,
small, by the way, if I've just a question. If it's so small and the jet engine is so close to you, would that cause any damage to a person?
if the engine exploded, absolutely.
But it didn't like
But-
warm you up or it was like hot just from like
Oh
being there.
no! So like it would have you would get some heat, but it was insulated. They're not that stupid.
Well,
They designed
I mean,
Yeah,
it's-
that's-
So
well,
if you want to reason why, if you want to reason why, all of these planes are first tested using company test pilots, and unlike the Air Force, company test pilots are expensive. So if you cook one, you need to pay them and you buy and hire a new one. If it's the Air Force, you don't give a shit. It's somebody else's problem.
Right.
But because they were done with the company first, they had to be somewhat safe.
mhm.
And yeah, this plane was such a massive success, it lasted a whole year before it got canceled.
Wow.
That doesn't sound like a long time.
Well, tell you what, it's actually pretty impressive. Like that's a whole year where people were like, "Yep, you know what?
This was a good idea.
Exactly. That's 365 days.
I mean,
It's a lot of time."
It definitely
A
does
whole
beat.
revolution around the sun. People thought that was a good idea.
Yep.
It definitely does beat the plane that when it turned on, burst your eardrums, flew you back, and then
That's
destroyed
true.
everything.
You know, that's true.
Tiny but mighty.
True. At least
The
it's
plane that
fucking
literally
functional.
tried to murder its pilot.
I do like the energy of plane that turns on and kills everything around it.
Yeah.
It's
So
like
that is
the-
true. At least these planes worked. Sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, I
It
respect
had
the
to
fun
not work as you plummeted towards the earth, but
Oh,
they
yeah.
worked eventually.
See, you just had to trust in the process, man. You know,
Yeah, trust
For the
that
That's
first
all I have,
15,000 feet, I would be very upset with this plane.
Sigma rule number 73, bro.
Yeah,
You know?
this small plane is on its Sigma grind set. It doesn't need to
That's-
have wheels to fly.
Exactly. It does
Gravity
indeed.
doesn't affect the top
Yeah.
G. That's why we're the top G.
Yeah,
Yeah, it has the most G's it can get.
exactly.
The G forces, of course.
Oh, that's good.
And then it still gets better, I'm afraid. So you know how you have to eject when it's out of fuel,
Right.
which is
Yeah.
like an hour after you start flying.
Of course. You know, in all planes,
Because
you
it
have
is
to
so
eject.
small, when you're told to eject, you have to pull the handle. But before you pull the handle, you have to physically get a bottle of oxygen to use while you're falling.
Oh.
Because there's no like oxygen mask. You have to hold on to a bottle of oxygen and your
Wait.
parachute, and then pull the handle.
Wait.
That's not an emergency. That's just not an emergency
I'm
thing.
stun locked. I've been stun locked.
Yeah, that's not even like
Please
that's
make
not
sure
even
your
an
oxygen
eject.
mask is firmly affixed before you assist the other pilots.
But you have to get the bottle, but why wouldn't?
Between your legs, I think to hold on to it. Then put on your parachute and then pull the handle.
I guess because you probably don't have enough space to just like have it in like a compartment or something to attach to you, or like to sit
Like,
around. And you can put it
maybe
between your
have
legs because you need to
something.
use the stick, and you're like hunched over like a goblin. It is called a
Yeah.
goblin. So
It is, yeah. It
True.
was in fact called the Goblin. But they eventually realized that the plane was unsustainable. Not to mention because
Oh, they
because
realized.
actually-
Oh, whoa.
Yeah,
What a
they finally fucking realized.
shock. Holy shit! I
There
would
was-
have never seen that twist.
what's probably unironically true is that they realized that ejection is not good for your spine because it's so high G-force. Like it physically compresses your spine.
Yeah.
So
Why not?
ejecting multiple times in like a week would not be good for your
Oh my
long-term
god,
health.
I didn't even
What-
think about these are career pilots. Like one
Yeah.
of these gets destroyed and they just move on to the next one.
Oh
Hmm.
my god, then.
Well, no, it's okay because they weren't thinking about the G forces being bad for you then, because they were on their saber grind set and they needed all the Gs.
They needed the G's, you're right.
That's
They needed
true.
the Gs.
That is true. Well, you know, it is the
Needed-
Cold War. Like it was pretty
I
much
remember-
battle of the G's there. So you know.
Remember, this goes inside the plane that had the tank tracks and the racing stripe to make it go
Yeah.
faster.
Oh, yep.
So they were all
The
there
more
was
Gs,
big
the
G's,
better it
little
is.
G's.
And that's actually it's another good point. Is because the plane was basically half inside. That meant for the whole flight you were staring at the back of a nuclear bomb.
You were in the safest part of the plane.
On.
Pretty much,
You were getting-
pretty much realized that if there was an
At least
accident,
it would be vaporized instantly.
yeah.
You were near the
Like,
place
you-
that had the most uranium. That's pretty rad. And Sigma's like being rad, right?
Shut up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's fair.
My bad, bro. Like,
Yeah. And the one last figure I'll leave you with is last time was like the sheer weight of that other plane. This little thing, because it weighs so little, its maximum speed is just under the speed of sound. So that's like 700 miles an hour.
Just under. That's
I feel
kind of
like
impressive.
if this thing
He is on a
supersonic, it would
sequence.
explode as soon as it created a sonic boom.
I know. I imagine it will go.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine you just hear the Sonic theme just start playing, and it's like Super Sonic Racing, and then you just go.
So wait, so this thing could get like almost what would that be? Like 2,000 miles away from where it started?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's pretty impressive.
If you were at top speed the entire time, but to be fair, at full speed you would burn through your gas in like 20 minutes or less.
oh.
There's a very big difference between maximum time in the air and fastest time in the air.
Wait. Also,
Yeah,
I have a
bro.
question. If every time you have to use this plane, you have to eject, does that also mean they had to pick up the pilots afterwards, just from the random locations they dropped in?
Wasn't this what Skyhook was used for?
That was a separate but similar idea.
Okay.
Kinda.
I
It
thought
was
that was
used
like
to
for intelligence operatives.
it was to pick up any person on the ground without landing. It's literally you basically make a gigantic hammock, sit in it, and then a plane comes through at 200 miles an hour with a big hook. It hooks onto your hammock and then picks you up.
You stay hanging there until the plane can retrieve you.
Okay.
That sounds like a fun
if you were-
carnival ride.
That sounds like more G's. To be fair.
Mhm.
We are all-
If you were to be fair for this plane, if you were over land, you could try and belly land it, like go as slow as possible and like just put it down gently.
Oh,
Without
But it still meant you basically had to repair the entire bottom of it.
So the German plane in World War II, the Comet, it was the same design, except it was designed to take off from like airports, like Air Force bases. And so the wheels, would you actually, Tim, can you Google German Comet plane?
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. Give me a sec.
And so the wheels were on wooden chocks that would just fall away from the aircraft.
Yeah.
And then you were supposed to try to land it, but the pilot is sitting on top of the fuel. So 9 times out of 10, the plane would just burst into flames when you tried to land.
So I will have a quick break to talk about this plane now because you make a very good point. So the next was this plane was rocket powered. It was not a jet engine.
Okay, so it was all just like very dense concentrated fuel in.
It was rocket fuel.
Yeah.
But it was not the typical like kerosene they use now. It was, I forget exactly what it is. It was hydrazine and something else.
Like
Hydrazine is a nasty chemical. When I say nasty, I mean very nasty.
I'm guessing it's made up of like hydrogen, but then what else is put inside it? Why it's so bad? Hydrazine.
There you go. It's nitrogen and hydrogen.
Okay.
It is very not nice. It is highly toxic. And when mixed with its fuel,
I've seen Niall Red mess with this stuff. Sorry, sorry.
They used it because it didn't need an igniter. Because when it was mixed with its other fuel, it spontaneously combusted.
Oh my god.
Oh god.
It was so volatile. It just said hello to anything else and just set itself on fire.
So whenever it met with its designated fuel, it would spontaneously burst into flames and combust. But the problem with this was, so you see where this little like big bit here, like most of the plane.
Yeah.
Those are the fuel tanks. That's the pilot, and that's where it lands.
Oh.
Yeah, the wheels would break away once you took off. So
Yeah.
you'd be landing on your belly.
I see nothing wrong with this design.
Wait, that is true until you're flying. But the first time this plane crashed, one of the fuel lines broke and dissolved the pilot.
Dissolved.
I mean that in a literal sense. If you've seen Breaking Bad, how they like dissolve the guy in the barrel.
Yeah.
Dissolved.
It's literally that in real life.
But that
What was his solubility, though? You know, I think we're...
What was his thread count, you know? How like...
you know, I mean, you know, what was he wearing that day?
The strat with these planes began to be like burn yourself out of fuel and try to land with no fuel in the tank, which is a crash landing because you have no way to you have no power to the aircraft anymore.
So I have a legitimate question here. Like, okay, I can see why this plane is not a good idea to land on on land, but what if you were to try to land on like water, for instance?
It's spontaneous. Both of the fuels burn on contact with water as well. I forgot to mention.
Oh, fucking
fantastic! It lights the ocean on fire.
Grace, it could probably,
it does 100% literally. Like they will spontaneously combust or explode on contact with water.
That's just fucking
as soon as this engine turns on, the pilot is not safe in the air, on the ground, or in the sea.
There's another problem. Is there was a period account from a Nazi pilot who said that this plane had a negative kill ratio. So if you know what a kill ratio is, a kill ratio is how many planes shot down, how many plane you lose in exchange.
Right.
Yeah.
This plane had a propensity to explode because the fuel tanks would crack and mix with each other. But the problem was it basically acts as a gigantic bomb then.
Right. It did more
and while you're
damage
flying
crashing than it ever did shooting.
Did it even?
Yeah, but the worst part was if it blew up while you were flying, sometimes the fragmentation would destroy other Nazi planes that were just flying around as well. So that's wise. This plane destroyed more Nazi planes than Allied planes.
What a hero! What a hero!
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, what a hero!
Everyone talks about the Spitfire being an important plane in World War II. Nah, this is the real OG. He'd been killing planes before they even got into the battle.
This plane realized it was being flown by Nazis and said, "Wait a minute.
Wait a second. I have to do this for the people."
So then, much like our friend the Goblin, this plane also had a very, very short flight time. Except the other one was about an hour and a half. This one was about 5 minutes of fuel.
Yeah.
So it would take off, climb as fast as it possibly could, burn all of its fuel, and then make like 1 or 2 passing rounds of gliding before it had to land and get refueled. Yeah.
Falling with style.
Yeah, I'll see because it just lands in the grass.
Right.
Just there it is.
Does it land in the grass?
Well, there you go. Like he's trying to land.
Oh yeah, so the other one you were showing was the revision B when they fixed, quote, the engine compartment and the wheels. So this is the revision A, the bright red one. Can you imagine why bright red aircraft were probably not a good idea?
Yeah,
Hey,
you know,
shoot me.
yeah, I can kind of see why.
The same reason that red cars get pulled over more than white or black
Yes,
ones.
this plane is literally
Yeah.
the equivalent of the enemy type in a video game that explodes when you shoot it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's video game logic.
True.
It's an
This is
explosive barrel.
this is the explosive barrel of planes. Yeah.
There might be something
Here's your
there,
cockpit.
actually.
This is your cockpit. Yeah, you can see there is no safety of any kind.
Oh, fun.
No brakes.
Clearly,
Yeah,
you have six dials. One of which is the fuel gauge, which goes from full to empty immediately, because rockets are not very fuel efficient.
There were many aircraft technologies that did not exist in World War II. One of them was an ejecting seat. So once you got in, you did not leave that plane until it was on the ground.
Going down with the ship, baby.
I hope they had parachutes, right? They could open.
It did have parachutes. The only thing you could do is you could physically open the cockpit
Like,
yourself and jump out.
Yeah, you could unlatch the cockpit window, push it away from you, put on your parachute, and jump out.
Yeah. Man,
And then this little black box here is the rocket. This is it.
Yeah, that's the engine that moves the aircraft.
nice. It is basically the.
This little thing is responsible for killing more Nazi planes than Allied planes.
Boy.
This little
It
friend
really
right
is
here.
the explosive barrel, because if someone on the Allies shot one of these planes, it would blow up any nearby Nazi
Yeah, it would
planes.
kill more Nazis.
Yeah, the others are flying in, and then they get a tooltip on the top right that says "Red planes explode on death."
During their loading screen when they were preparing to launch.
Yeah, just as
Time
a
stops
tip,
and a tutorial window pops up.
That's good.
You get the slow down; it gets highlighted for a second, just like glowing red plane, and they're like, "Oh no, I get it. Tutorial tip, go away. I understand what I need to do."
Another friendly incident with this plane was it had no guns on it. It only had rockets, as in missiles.
Yep.
The problem was missiles at the time were very, very, very basic, to the point where they could fly in a straight line, and that's it. They had no guidance. They had a very basic fuse, and they were pretty useless most of the time.
And they
So-
were propelled by
so
the same
not only-
materials propelling this plane.
No, so the missiles were solid fuel, which is much safer than, explode if you look at it.
Imagine the missile on your plane having safer fuel than the plane that you're flying.
Better safety standards than the plane you're flying. Yeah.
Safety last. And then you see this little thing on the front there, that little bit.
Tiny propeller.
That's a ram air turbine. That is a generator to the plane.
Ooh.
That's the
It gives electrical power. Yeah.
Is that one of those that they'd have to spin before startup?
Yeah, has to spin to. It's like electric
No,
cars or
so
hybrid ones.
that propeller is not providing any force or lift. As the rocket propels the plane, that propeller is generating the electricity for the aircraft to use.
It's like in a hybrid car when the wheels are turning, or when the engine makes the wheels turn and starts going, it starts generating power back to the carts.
Right. Yeah. But that also meant that as you got slower down as you're trying to land, you lose power, as in electricity.
Yeah.
Worthy trade-off.
So it's as you're trying to land this horrendously unstable, explode on contact with anything plane, you are losing the ability to control it as well.
The Nazi scientist really was just like, that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
Some of you will die, but that's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Yeah, was that?
So this.
Oh my god.
So
Lord
as to
Farquaad,
sort of sum up our plane here, it is unstable, unusable, cannot kill enemies, will kill your allies, will kill the pilot, everything you know and love, and can set anything on fire that it crashes into.
Will explode if attempting to land on the ground or in the water.
It's the closest
I think
human beings have got to antimatter.
I can revise that statement. Just will explode.
Will explode. Yep.
Yeah.
Just put a bunch of do not step stickers all over the plane.
The whole plane just says do not touch, do not use, do not look at, do not think about.
It's got one of those
It's plain-
hazardous material stickers on it, not for the fuel or anything, but for the
this
plane
plane-
itself.
This plane is literally an SCP.
Oh, yeah. I like it.
Honestly, I could see it like just like having little bios like plane will attempt to kill you at all costs if you
Plane
try to
will
touch
try
it
to kill
in
you.
The SCP
class
Yeah.
Euler. Do
the
not
SCP
interact.
is a
Do not
sentient
touch.
plane
Yeah.
that realized it was being flown by Nazis and decided to take a moral
Yeah.
stand against them.
It's the Nirvana plane as well. Like every time it explodes, it also reforms somewhere else in the world, just like and for someone
a
else.
phoenix.
to satisfy.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
When it blows up, another plane rises from
Oh my
the
god, we should write this as a bit. We should put this on the wiki. They'd love it. The Phoenix. What a good log. Someone put that down.
So
Let's use
okay.
it at least.
now that we're
Write that down.
for the moment we're finished with planes and stuff. Now we're moving on to technologies.
Sure.
Ooh.
So here are 3 technologies. Whack planes. How about ideas? The first one, war emergency power. It's the idea that so your plane gives you however much horsepower, like 2,000, 2,500, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What if you want more power?
Oh, so this is the anime of engines. It
Yeah,
kills
so you want
itself.
more power. But
Yeah.
the funny thing is, this always comes at a cost. Normally, your engine spontaneously disintegrates or like physically explodes more than it already does.
Okay.
So none of those planes we just saw had war power because they would have just,
Mhm.
decided to cease to exist. So this is a setting. So this one is weird because it's on good planes normally, and it made them weird.
Oh.
Next, we're going to talk about how the USSR basically gave the US the Blackbird.
Mhm.
Not by choice, but through what's the word?
Espionage.
Communism.
No, well, there's more the US. So they needed
Negligence.
titanium, and the US basically paid off some third world countries to buy titanium and ship it to the US.
Mm. Oh, okay. Negligence.
And then the last one is the F-15. Notice the little indented bullet. I'll leave
Now-
it there for now.
Hmm.
That just seems like it's more of a rocket than a plane.
Well, we'll get to it.
Oh, okay.
First things first, war power.
Oh, gorgeous.
Oh my god.
So,
Someone
yeah.
who's
Now that
sworn.
looks like an SCP.
It does.
Yeah. So because World War II saw so much development,
Mhm.
planes that were developed were pretty much obsolete within a few years.
Mm.
But the way to keep them relevant was if you give them more power, they could be faster and turn better and just fight better.
Mm.
So the way to do that was you increase the power. For example, the Mustang P-51, fantastic plane, very good, very reliable.
Mm.
Had about 1,500 horsepower. But the throttle lever, if you pushed it harder, you could increase the power to 2,200 horsepower.
Okay.
And every time it landed, you had to inspect the engine, because if you didn't, this stuff happened.
Oh god. Okay.
I'm sorry, Master. I have to go all out just this once.
Pretty much. The rule was that if it was used for 5 hours in total throughout its whole life, the engine had to be fully replaced completely.
Oh my god.
Genos after every fight in One Punch Man.
But yeah, so then this, yeah, it was good for, so put it this, it was a bit of a trade-off. If you're being chased by a fighter, not the Me-163 that would explode when being looked at, but like a normal German fighter, he's on your tail, he's shooting at you, you have 2 choices. 1, you can do nothing and hope he doesn't hit you. Or 2, you can use this and hope your engine doesn't decide to have a heart attack. Most of the time, people decided to use this because most of the time it worked. But when it didn't, the whole front of your plane exploded and you had to jump out, hopefully.
I just
Well,
love that they added the feature of just pushing the button even harder.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it is a Mario Kart, push the pedal harder and you go faster.
It's the nitros of plane.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just push the big red button. It'll be fine.
I respect the ideology of either I win and I go fast enough to outmaneuver this plane, or I kill myself. You don't get to decide what happens to me or my
Go
life.
out on my own terms.
I go on my own fucking
The
terms.
objective is not to have fun. The objective is to make sure you don't.
Yeah, exactly.
I only win if you suffer. Others must lose for me to win.
So we will now move on to an even more extreme example of this.
Mhm.
The Soviets. Because
Now-
when wouldn't it?
I feel like number 1 and number 2 should not be linked if you want to have a good time in a plane.
This is correct. Because so in modern aircraft, most of them don't have war power because engines are already pretty powerful enough afterburners.
Mhm.
There is this one notable exception, the MiG-21. Also, this is so I actually I wanted to get in Eastern Bloc planes because it is kind of just American stuff.
Oh,
But throughout the entirety of the Cold War, there are only 5 known and well-documented Soviet experimental planes. None of which are that weird.
I was just
So if anything, the weird thing about the Russians is they never tested anything.
Can
They
I
just
just
hoped it
say,
worked.
the Diamond Regime is such a fucking sick name.
It actually really is.
For like a plane that seems like you're gonna tell me it's gonna crash and explode almost
Nah,
immediately.
Diamond
You know what
is
it sounds like?
unbreakable.
You know what it sounds like? This sounds like one of those like AI generated things, essentially that a DM would use in fucking D&D to
Yeah.
try to make some sort of like dwarven hyper capitalistic society or whatever, you know?
yeah. It's
That's
like
fire, that's a
random
fire
name
name.
generator. Just go Diamond
Then the
Regime. hell yeah.
dwarves drone strike the forest elves.
Yeah, if you want if you want an evil dwarf empire, Diamond Regime, you got it right there.
There you go.
100%.
Right, so this plane had normally to have about 14,000 pound-feet of thrust. For a modern plane, that's kind of garbage, as weird as it sounds.
Mhm.
But this plane was also very old. At the time, it was a very good plane. But eventually, everything gets old, and eventually, it doesn't work out very well.
Mhm.
So to keep this plane relevant, they added this feature, we'll call it, which increased the amount of fuel that goes to the engine. And it increased power by 50%, which is a lot in a plane. It gave it a very good climb rate. This plane, at full power, and mostly empty, could climb 50,000 feet per minute.
Mhm.
What?
So that
Per
means
minute?
Per minute. So every minute it was climbing 50,000 feet.
15,000.
50.
It could point straight up and almost leave the stratosphere in under a minute.
Yes.
Jeez.
What the fuck?
Although, as you might expect, based on the pictures provided for the slide, it did not work all the time.
Yeah.
So for every 1 second you were using the Diamond regime, the engine wear was increased about 600 times. And
It's
if you
like-
used it for more than
by a factor of 600 for 1 second. Every second. Oh my god.
so that means if you used it for 10 seconds, it was the equivalent of having it for some ridiculous amount of time. But it also got worse every passing second because it added so much heat.
Yeah, it did like 10 months of damage to the engine for every second you were using this.
Like, it was exponential growth. It wasn't.
Because it added so much heat.
Now you see, for the beginning, until just now, I was like, I'm seeing a lot of picture 1 in my mind, but now I'm seeing a lot of picture 2 in my mind.
Yeah, well, especially because the next part, because if you use it for more than 5 minutes continuously, the engine melts.
Melt. Wait,
Oh, yeah.
melt.
This is literally like the plane equivalent of the cheetah. Like, people think cheetahs
Yeah.
are like the coolest animal, like they can
Yeah.
run like 80 miles an hour. But if they do that for any like serious amount of time, more than like a couple
Yeah, they
seconds,
just
they'll have a fucking heart attack and a stroke at the same time and die. And anytime they do manage to actually kill something, it gets ganked by a bunch of other predators like hyenas or wild dogs,
That's why
not
you
even
want-
lions.
Yeah, you want to be a hippo. If you're going to be in the African savannah, be a hippo. No one fucks with
Hippos are straight up
That's
murder
true,
cows.
which
They'll
means
fucking
They're
kill you.
evil.
which means that technically speaking,
Ooh.
as long as we have a plane that's based off of the hippo, everything
The
would be fine, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Tim,
By all laws of aviation, hippos shouldn't be able to fly, but
Tim,
they do what they
yeah.
want. So.
I probably got to cut this short.
Okay, so we will finish it here then.
Yeah. So, closing thoughts about the wonderful technologies you've shown us today.
Amazing. Loved it. Loved how dumb. I love my big plane dad and my tiny plane son.
We went from video games and anime to depression, then to planes.
Quite a variety.
This is what Swag Academy is all about.
That's exactly what Swag Academy is all about.
Honestly,
Yeah.
honestly, I think I rate this presentation
I like
plane out of flight.
That's
Thank you very much.
That's how a lot of those planes
It's a
were.
very nice one.
I like shut the fuck
But yes. So our closing remark, because I'm sure you're all interested in the F-15 wings optional incident. So the F-15 is a weird plane. Design is very short and very wide.
Ooh.
Here, let me pull up the pictures for it.
Wide.
Yes.
Boy.
Wide boy.
Wide boy.
Wide boy.
What you
Yeah.
doing?
Oh,
here?
that,
What is
yeah,
that?
he's kind of
Oh,
wide.
he's fronting up on me.
Wait,
He's squaring up.
is that not the plane from like Top Gun?
It is not. That was the
That's-
F-14 or the F-18.
Those two
It looks like
vents
if a
on it,
plane
right?
wore spectacles.
That's got like two big
It's
vents
like
in front of it.
OG Starscream. That's what it is. Because that's
Yeah.
So this would have been the plane it was based off of.
Oh, dude, you're right. Oh, wait.
Oh, yeah.
I see it. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah.
Then, yeah. So there was a training accident. Another plane hit it and cut off the right wing, and it landed like this.
Oh,
Like as you can see, like here is this. This is the plane in flight. You can see missing. There's something. One side is not like the other.
Yeah.
And then after it landed, they got a nice picture of it, of the little wing incident there. You can see it's just straight up gone.
just
Oh,
sheared off.
God.
But how?
Where did the wing
Oh.
go?
So they actually discovered that the plane can fly on one wing because it is so physically wide. The body itself acts like a wing.
Yeah, it's self-straightening.
So if
So
you,
what
so that-
happens if you removed the other wing?
it would need to be at full power to just like lift off the ground, but you could theoretically fly on like one wing or half a wing.
Well, that's like the
That
big.
is insane.
It's like the big cell phone. That's just a big triangle.
But the absolute
Yeah, I don't-
so that the other reason it could is because its engines were so strong, it could just fly. It could fly directly upwards
oh my
like
god.
a rocket because the plane weighs about 50,000 pounds,
Not a lot.
but the engines at full power can produce 60,000 pounds of thrust.
It's the chattest plane I've seen today.
Yeah, no, that's a Chad plane. You're right.
That's a Chad plane. There's no other way for me to put it.
And to prove like this, the plane is like that. My final thing I'll say for this presentation: this plane, its kill ratio is 105 to 0.
Whoa.
It has a KDR of positive 105. It has yet to be shot down.
No,
Why
that's
not?
yeah, man. That's
That's
I'm going-
crazy.
I'm
The
going
Virgin
cheap.
Comet
It's
versus
like-
the Chad
this is like
F-15.
the fucking athlete that gets his balls cut off so he can run faster.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually,
He's just like, cut off the other one too. Do it, pussy, and maybe faster. I have lots of weight. No more drag here.
Yeah, too much air resistance. I need more
Yeah, there you go.
aerodynamics.
Fuck it, I'll do it myself. Unwings your
I will
plane.
leave it there because I would like to give time to the last person
Yeah.
to finish.